All right, folks. It's been a lot of talk, especially the group New Edition. They just completed their Vegas residency, and all over social media, people on the like certain group um chats and stuff like that, Facebook groups. They were saying, well, Ralph Tresvant, did not have a good solo career. Ralph Tresvant's song sucked. Ralph Tresvant was a one hit wonder. Ralph Tresvant only had one song out. All his other songs were the worst. They were terrible. Okay, it was all of that. And I recently put up a video. It was called Ralph Tresvant Hated RBRM. And the reason why I said he did, because you can see he was bothered by that. Now, everybody remembers when the New Edition movie came out. And he also said, you know what? He wanted everybody to focus on New Edition. He said he wanted everybody to put all of their, side projects to the side, and it should be the focus on just New Edition because it was a New Edition project. So around that time, BBD had dropped an album. It was called Three Stripes. BBD dropped an album. Ralph wasn't too happy about that, so he scaled back. He really didn't, you know, it just he wasn't feeling it. Whether you agree with it or not, Ralph wasn't feeling it. Okay, so the movie come out, they did the big premiere. They was on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. All of the members on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and we thinking, oh, everything is good between them. They all in brotherhood. Everything is good. They go on the BET Awards. They perform at the BET Awards. Everything was good. Now remember, Big Tigger had did an interview. It was Belle Biv DeVoe, Johnny Gill. They were in the interview. I think Ralph and Bobby wasn't there. Bobby had his own thing going on, and Ralph, he just wasn't there. I don't know what he was doing. Okay, he wasn't there. So we all looking for the tour coming up. I think it was January. I think January of 2018 or something like that or whatever it is. They're supposed to go out on tour. They didn't go on tour. I'm like, what's going on? Why are they on tour yet? And the date for the movie is supposed to come out. The Bobby Brown movie done came out, and we didn't see him on tour. So now I go to Ricky Bell's page. Well, first, I saw this on Patty Jackson. Those of you who know Patty Jackson who live in Philly, Patty Jackson had recently mentioned it on her Instagram page because she does a 411 on Instagram page saying New Edition is going on tour without Ralph Tresvant and Johnny Gill. And I'm like, how are you going to go on tour with that? That's basically BBD featuring Bobby Brown. So how is that going to work? So Ricky Bell put something out saying they couldn't all agree to certain things. He couldn't all get all six members on board and this, that, and the third. So he said he's going to continue to try to reach out to everybody and get everything going. But RBR. But he's going to go out with Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike. They call themselves RBRN. Okay. So they go on the Breakfast Club. And they do shows with the Breakfast Club. I think they did a show with Sway. They did a lot of shows that day. Okay. And, then comes Johnny. Johnny goes on Instagram, puts out something on Instagram saying that people are lying. We own a New Edition name, and Instead of working with us and trying to get it resolved, they hired lawyers and trying to fight Johnny and Ralph, and it turned into a huge mess. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, new edition's over. New edition's over. And therefore, Ralph hasn't really spoken about it yet. So now on another interview, I think they were on a cruise ship or something. Ralph and Johnny did their interviews, and Ralph was saying people were doing malicious things to him, and the group did things that were like not forgivable at this point in time. So you knew something was up. He didn't really say what was up, but you kind of knew something was up. Then Ralph does an interview. I think it was on All Black, and he says, "All right, to go out." He said BBD dropped an album. He wasn't feeling that. Then it was the name. So they said, all right, they strong arm and attacking him. And Ralph said, you know what? I'm not going out on tour. I'm not going out there with him. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So the rest of the members say, you know what? We're going to go out on tour. And instead of us calling this New Edition, let's just call it RBRM with the initials Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, and Mike. Ralph hated that because he took what he said and basically used that against him and called themselves RBRM. I personally think it should have just been BBD with Bobby Brown or BBD featuring Bobby Brown. It would have just, been a little bit better than RBRM. I mean, just say BBD featuring Bobby Brown, just like Maze featuring Frankie Beverly. I read it, okay, but whatever. All right, fine. So, Johnny goes on another show and he talks about, I think a lot of people say, oh, New Edition, Johnny released an album. He did a song with Ralph on it, and then Ralph released a song with Johnny on it. So it was like, okay, what's going on here? So Johnny put Ralph back up on the mat, so to speak, with featured in a couple of songs. So time goes by, Johnny Gill does a radio interview. He says, listen, we talking, him and Mike are talking. One is jealousy. The other is trust. So it was a lot going on. So in my mind, it was a whole lot of backstabbing, going on. But then I think after Kobe passed away in that plane crash, they understood, okay, y'all the longest groups out there that has all their members alive, because you have a lot of members of groups now that are not with the group anymore or they're no longer here. You can't say that with Troop. You can't say that with High Five. I mean, Soul For Real is around. Force MDs, most of their original people done passed away. The Rude Boys, most of their people done passed away. You have Jodeci, they're still around. Guy is still around. Okay. Hey, Migos, they lost one of their guys, Takeoff. He passed away. So they got it back together. And they did I think it was 3 or 4 successful tours. They did the Culture Tour, then they did a tour in Aruba, then they did something at the Kentucky Derby, then they did the Essence Music Festival, then they did the Legacy Tour, and then they did the Vegas residency, and then they're going to go back out in Vegas, I think in July, and I think in November, and do another stint with the tour. But that's just the backstory. Now here, I'm going to talk about and try to, explain to people why, all this, why people think Ralph had a bad solo career. Ralph never had any songs that was played on the radio. Okay, so let's go back in time. So after the Heartbreak Tour, let's go back in time. BBD dropped an album, I think in March of 90 or something like that. BBD dropped an album in March of 1990. Okay. Before that, Johnny Gill and Stacey Lattisaw songs were on the chart. And the song was titled, Where Do We Go From Here? Then BBD drops Poison. Drops Poison. That becomes a smash. That becomes a smash. 1990. Do Me. I Thought It Was Me. When Will I See You Smile Again? Then right after that, Johnny Gill drops his album. He does Rub You the Right Way, My, Fair Weather Friend, Wrap My Body Tight. All of those were top R&B hits. All four of those songs. So you had BBD, Johnny Gill coming out early part of 1990. Now before that, it was Bobby Brown had released an album the same day that Heartbreak came out. And they appeared on Soul Train on the same episode on Soul Train, and they actually toured together. Bobby Brown opened up for New Edition. That was before the Don't Be Cruel album took off. At that time, Bobby Brown had Don't Be Cruel, My Prerogative, Roni, Rock With You, Every Little Step I Take. 6 singles released off that album. And then there was another good song was I'll Be Good to You. So actually it was 7, but that wasn't released as a single. So pretty good album all in all. New Edition comes out, Heartbreak. They had If It Isn't Love, Then You're Not My Kind of Girl, Can You Stand the Rain? You had Crucial. Then you had Any Heartbreak. So there were 5 singles on that album compared to 6 with Bobby Brown, which did pretty well. And that album is pretty good all around. Just because it doesn't get played all on the radio doesn't mean it's not a good album. Okay, let's go back. Now I'm going to sit here and I'm going to pull up Ralph Tresvant's album. When did Ralph Tresvant release his album? When did Ralph Tresvant release the Sensitivity album? Ralph Tresvant album was released November 20th, 1990. November 20th, 1990. Mind it, Johnny Gill and Belle Biv DeVoe. Johnny Gill, Belle Biv DeVoe. Let's look up Johnny Gill and see when his album was released. Okay, let's see when his album was released. It was released April 17th, 1990. That's when Johnny Gill's album was released. April 17th, 1990. Okay? Belle Biv DeVoe. Let's go back and see when their album was released. Belle Biv DeVoe's album was released March 20th, 1990. So BBD released an album in March. Johnny Gill released one less than a month later, 1990. Now, in between March and October of 90, R&B was changing. The style was changing. Everything was changing. And when Ralph came out with his album, I'm going to tell you what happened when Ralph came out with his album. Mariah Carey had came out. Keith Sweat had came out. High Five had came out. Teddy Pendergrass had a hit out in 1990. Whitney Houston came out before Ralph's album came out. Janet Jackson was still hot in 1990. You had groups, and then you already know Luther was going to come out. Lisa Fisher, Lisa Stansfield, Anita Baker, Samuel, Christopher Williams. All of those artists that were new, they came out before Ralph Tresvant's album. So when Ralph releases his album in November of 1990, you already had new artists coming out. Their songs was hot. Whitney Houston, she was already established. This new girl Mariah Carey, who came out in the pop and R&B scenes, you already know. Then you had the Gerald Leverts, and everything, and Tony, and R&B was changing. So when Ralph released his album in November of 1990, Sensitivity came out. Was a number one hit. Number one hit. Good song. But it just, and then he had Do What I Gotta Do and Stone Cold Gentleman. Okay. They were good hits, but they wasn't as popular. Now, their songs, them songs didn't chart as much as BBD's and Johnny Gill's and Bobby Brown. But I can give you songs with Ralph. He did Money Can't Buy You Love, Yo Baby, Yo Baby, Yo. She's My Love Thing, Rated R. I think Ralph should have came out with Rated R and made a video with Rated R. But at the time it's changed, R&B was changing. So that album was going to carry over to 1991. And then by 91, you had the Karen White coming out, Another Bad Creation, Boys the Men, Michael Jackson, Shanice. Yeah, Michael Jackson came out with an album in 91. So now all of these artists coming out with a new sound. They're not wearing the suits and the ties anymore. It's more like hip hop mixed with R&B. And, Ralph just was a victim of that. Just victim of new artists that was coming out and established artists that was going to get that shine. Now Ralph did, I think he won a Billboard Music Award with Sensitivity. But when a lot of people say that Ralph didn't have any songs, that's a lie. Ralph had songs, but a lot of people, when they see him, they see New Edition. They see, it's like a lot of people see his songs and they see it as New Edition. When Bobby Brown came out, that was a New Edition. That was Bobby Brown. His sound sounded way, way different than Heartbreak. When BBD came out, Belle Biv DeVoe, yeah, those were three members from that group New Edition. But when you turn to BBD, they wasn't wearing the suits and ties. They wasn't doing the steps and everything. It was hip hop dancing. It was club music. Songs totally different from the style of Heartbreak. And I think one song, Any Heartbreak, was the start of that, because when the remix of Any Heartbreak, you could see a little bit of BBD coming into effect. I don't know if that was suggested before that video or after that video, but you could see in that remix a little bit, and Mike's rap, it was starting to go in fruition. Okay. But BBD was different. Now they had a song, When Will I See You Smile Again? You can say that would be New Edition-esque, but Ricky was the lead. Okay. Johnny Gill comes out. He got his own style, Rub You the Right Way. That was a New Edition. My wasn't New Edition. Fair Weather Friend, Grant My Body Tight. A little bit of New Jack, R&B, Adele Contemporary, because he appealed more to the grown folks music, the 35s and up at the time. And then Ralph comes along with Sensitivity, and it was a good song, but it was like, I still, it's the New Edition guy. Some people thought that it was still New Edition. I don't think that song was a New Edition song, but Ralph did a lot of solo songs, If It Isn't Love and Crucial. So they still think he's the guy from New Edition. And at that time, that New Edition sound was fading, But all of their debut albums was nice. BBD, Bobby Brown, King of Stage, wasn't the biggest, but Bobby's second album, Don't Be Cruel, was a smash. BBD's Poison album was a smash. Johnny Gill's, 1990 album was a smash. Ralph Tresvant's album had 3 hits on there. Okay, now let's go to when they all did second albums. When BBD came out with their second album, it didn't do as well. Johnny Gill's album, when it came out, I mean, it did okay. They had some minor hits with The Floor. You had Quiet Time to Play. I Got You. It's another song. But it didn't do as well as the first album. Bobby Brown, Bobby's album. That was probably the most successful follow-up than everybody else's, because he had Humping Around, Good Enough, and then he had the song with Whitney Houston, Something in Common. So his second album did good. Getaway, they had some good songs on Getaway. When Ralph came out in '94 with the It's Going Down album, that did nothing. And there was some good songs. I mean, I like Who's the Mac, but it didn't get airplay. It didn't really get the popularity that his first album got. So they broke off. They said, you know what, they're going to get back to New Edition. And when they did the Home Again album, that was their most successful album to date. The tour was a disaster, but, that's what it was. So, and like I said, Ralph had other songs. He could carry 6 or 7 songs on his show if he had a set. Now, he can't head now. Am I saying he can headline a solo tour? No. He's not a Taylor Swift. He's not going to headline a 100,000 seat arena. He's not going to do that. But if he's tours with somebody or tours with Johnny Gill, Ralph can do 6 or 7 songs. He could do New Edition catalog because he's did most of New Edition leads. So when people say Ralph didn't have any songs, he was a one-hit wonder, he wasn't a one-hit wonder. I just think he got lost in that because the times were changing. You had new artists coming out, you had established artists coming out, and Mariah Carey was doing good, and the Patti LaBelle's came out, Luther was out, new ABC came out, Boys to Men. And you already know when it's something new, they're going to look at something new than the old. So that's what basically was. But, Ralph had songs. Ralph had good songs. Okay? Listen to the albums. He had good songs. And I like the song All Mine. So he had good songs. It wasn't that he only had one song that ever came out. Okay? So that's the reason. That's my thoughts on it. Tell me what you think about it. For more videos, hit the like button and also subscribe to this YouTube channel.